If you're sending 10,000, 50,000, even 500,000 cold emails every single month, yet you're stuck under 1% reply rates and struggling to book a meeting, you're not doing outreach. You're basically burning your opportunity to book sales calls. That reply rate is the simple, most important bottleneck that you can fix today, which is a simple few tweaks, which will instantly unlock at least 6 figures in your pipeline. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how you can get from 1% to 4, 5, 6, even in some cases 10% reply rates without switching sequencers, doing any warm-up voodoo, or just any of this nonsense first-line AI personalization. So let's get into it. I'll explain everything. Okay, so again, how to hit 6 to 10% reply rates on every campaign. And yeah, this document is going to be a full walkthrough guide. It is 25 pages long. Don't worry, I mean, most of it is just a few pictures, but it is going to be a long video. So if you just want to skip around to the section that you're most interested in, you can do so. But I don't recommend skipping around in the sections because you're not going to understand the whole picture. But if you want to, if one specific problem is a bottleneck, sure, do it. But just to keep things simple, this document will work no matter what ESP you're sending to, no matter what sequencer you're using. So let's go. Let's keep it simple. The game has basically changed, and you might have noticed what worked last year is probably not working well as this year. Okay, so the inbox rules are way tighter. Spam filters are smarter, and your competitors are sending more emails than ever. So if you're stuck between 0.5 and 2% reply rates, which is very, very common, that's where most people are at, you're leaving 80% of your revenue on the table. This document dives deep into the rabbit hole that is cold email and will show you exactly how to hit 6 to 10% reply rates consistently in every single one of your campaigns without switching tools or just praying to the warm-up gods. Okay, so number one, most important, is why the reply rate is the holy grail. And if you understand this, everything else in the document is going to make sense for you. So just think of your reply rates like conversion rates in your sales. You can have 1,000 people walk past your shop, but if no one steps in, it doesn't really matter, right? Like you could have a prime location, but if nobody goes into your shop, nobody buys, that's end of story. There's really only two ways to grow, is by sending more emails or by getting better at sending them. So basically volume versus efficiency. And this document will just focus on efficiency. We have one dedicated specifically on volume, but I did not want to get the two mixed up because I know it's a complex topic. And if you mix them up, it's just not going to end well. If you're someone who's consistently getting 4 to 5, 6, 7% reply rates, just feel free to watch that on volume if you're struggling to book like hundreds of sales calls. But this one is just specifically about fixing this very, very simple efficiency bug. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, hey, you need to send hundreds of handcrafted emails and none of this bullshit, because I know it works, but this is not what we're here for. So if anyone tells you that it's either or, so it's either volume or efficiency, either A, they're lying to you, or B, they're moronic and they have no idea what they're talking about. So to simply put it, both approaches work. Now let me explain the pros and cons of both. Most people just default to volume because it's easier to outsource, but it's also how you end up with 50k emails and absolutely nothing booked on your calendar. Okay, now let's bring out the purple crayons and do some math. Let's say you're decent at cold email and you're sending about 50,000 emails a month. You're getting 1% reply rates. That's 500 replies. 10% of those are positive. 30% of those turn into book calls. That's 15 meetings. That's not bad. Let's say 70% of those show up, so that's 11 meetings on the calendar. 20% of those close, so that's roughly about 2 deals. Now let's bump that number up to 3. So instead of 500 replies, now you're getting 1,500, which is quite a big stark difference. You're getting 150 leads, 50 bookings, 35 show-ups, and 6 deals, right? 3x everything. Okay, cool. Now let's say we bump that up just 6%. That's gonna net in 3,000 replies, 300 leads, 150 bookings, and 105 people showing up. That's gonna net you 12 deals. So I think you get where I'm going with this, but like one small change basically 6x our whole entire revenue. And just by fixing this reply rate problem, obviously it's not as simple as just by fixing it. There's a whole bunch of things that go into it. That's why 25 pages. But essentially, if you can fix this variable, that's the highest leverage ROI you can do in terms of cold email. And you didn't work harder. It's just, you just basically stopped sounding like everybody else. You had a better copy, list, infrastructure. That's why reply again is just the simple, most important growth lever you can run. And this document will just focus everything around that. Okay, so yeah, but before all that, like, who am I to even talk about this to you in the first place? We're not the best copywriters, nor are we the best AI engineers to understand the exact nuances of every single email service provider out there. I'll have to admit it, but we simply just run the most optimized cold email infrastructure through a series of high-level connections, which can be now yours too, since you're watching this video, which I'm going to reveal basically everything I know in this document about cold email in the current landscape. So we basically run a cold email infrastructure for 100 plus operators across SaaS, agencies, consulting, and PE-backed portfolio companies. We send out 1 million cold emails every single day throughout our 21 inner circle plus clients. Our average reply rate is basically 4.6%. I know this seems a little bit counterintuitive to the 6 to 10% reply rate, but in some industries, 1 to 2% is just considered unheard of. Just think about like C-suite and enterprise companies, right? It's very, very hard to get a response from those people. Okay, so we helped them double or triple their replies in basically under 1 week. So it's not weeks, that's not months, in under 1 week. And one simple reason why is because volume works incredibly well is because you can test multiple angles in a single day and know whether or not it works the next day. Just fast testing, a clean infrastructure, hyper accurate list, and personalization that goes beyond the first line actually lands with people. All right, we've broken everything down into first principles and have reverse engineered the success behind our best performing campaigns just to make the lucky outliers sort of the average. So let's break it all down. And but before we do that, here are some receipts from our past campaigns you can check out. I'm not going to go too in depth into it because I think you get the point. We use a combination of Mailbison as well as Smart Lead. But we have recently switched to something new, which I'll sort of introduce to you at the end of the video with a small little rant about sequencers. But let's go infrastructure first. Two things matter here. Number one, domain health and email health. If you don't know what these are, I'll go into them very much so in detail. Your offer could slap, but if one of your domains is cooked or email health is garbage, you're absolutely toast. You don't have a standing fighting chance. Your cold email is like driving a high performance car on a racetrack. So you basically need an engine, which let's say that's your domain. You need a smooth transmission, let's say that's your server, and a skilled driver who knows the track, which is you and you managing your campaign. If the engine's faulty or your transmission skips, it doesn't matter how good of a driver you are, you might run a lap or two, right? But you're ultimately not going to finish the race or even win for that matter. So just getting started with the first topic is basically domain health. So what is domain health? It's how your email providers basically categorize your domain. So it could be healthy, it could be unhealthy. So healthy just means safe, human-like sender, right? Just send straight to the inbox. Unhealthy means a spammy sender, junk folder, or worse, or just block it entirely. Okay, that's what they are looking for. Okay, so just what wrecks your domain health? There's quite a few, and we're going to go into these extensively, but just sending too many emails too fast, copy pasting generic spammy messaging, not running spin tags, sending spammy worded emails, sending links, images, HTML in your copy, targeting bad or unverified lists, rerunning the same list too soon, running a campaign too long past its burn point, using trash SMTP inbox. And if any of these sound familiar, then you probably already can pinpoint, okay, what you're doing wrong. Obviously, it's not as simple as this. This is just a quick high-level overview of just one of the problems. We're gonna get into email health in a minute. Basically, these are big caveats that could wreck your whole campaign and get you bad reply rates, because ultimately it's the reply rates is not a reflection of how good your campaign is. It's how good your infrastructure as well as your campaign is, right? So there's so many things that go into play here. So that's why I'm trying to break down the whole picture for you. So you might be asking, like, what about warm-up pools, right? Some warm-up pools and tools are worse than, I would say, doing nothing. For example, like Smart Lead's normal warm-up pool is overused and spikes suspiciously. Instead, used trusted ones, like what's quite a big turn, but Smarteed has a premium pool, which is really, really good. The regular one is just absolute trash at the moment, unfortunately. I mean, it could change in the future, but this is the sort of thing with email. It changes every single week. But currently, this is what we're running: Smartleads premium pool or Instantleads or People's AI. It's not bad as well at the moment. So do you want to protect your domain rep? Do this checklist. I could turn this into a checklist as well. It might make a little bit more sense. To use high quality inboxes, Google, Outlook, not SMTP. I'll tell you more on this later and why this is not recommended. Start slow and follow ESP advisory sounding tables. Use human-like personalized copy. Segment your list rather than doing jargon AI personalization. Verify every lead before sending. Rotate fresh lists every 90 days. Don't cheap out on bad warm-up. Okay, so once you have that, you should be good to go. Another topic a lot of people bring up is, does a domain age matter? Yes, it does, but I would say not in the way you think it does, because age domains aren't better out of the box. They're just going to give you more of a leeway to mess up. So they're not magically going to hit your inbox. What they do and what they offer is just forgiveness. So older domains have baked in reputations, so they recover faster if you screw up. If you're just starting new domains are absolutely fine. If you're scaling and burning, invest in age domains, right? Bottom line, clean sending is just going to do you a lot better than just having an aged domain in general. Aged just buys more room to mess up without burning your whole infrastructure. Just remember that. Okay, so domain TLD. What is TLD? Just means top level domain. So basically anything that goes over your main domain. Just think about, like, let's say scaling room, right? Like we have scaling room, that's our main domain. Scalingroom.com, corporate.com, basically, .com, .info, whatever is going after your name. Okay, so that's TLD. Just, I would say, again, another hot topic, but forget about the .com snobbery, and it's just really not worth it. So after 14 months of testing, we've seen over and over again .info, .pro, just getting 6 to 10% reply rates. That's crazy. The only thing that matters in reputation is aka your domain health. Just keep that in mind. Like, Google takes it more into account compared to Outlook. Again, I'm going to talk about more in detail later, but basically a good domain is going to do you much better if you're sending from Google to Google than if you're doing Outlook to Outlook. Outlook mainly cares about the IP, which again I'll mention to you, but this is what I recommend. You can basically get 3 domains for $1.98 on one.com. There's no reason not to get them, and I'll show you how you can do it right now. Very simple. Just go to one.com, click on domain, put anything you want. I'll just schooling room scale. I'll just type up something ridiculous because I know we don't have this domain, and I want to give you an example that is available so you can see it for yourself. But just search up anything you want. I recommend searching up .pro. The reason is because you can get a bundle with a .pro and .one. You can click it here, and it's going to give you 2 domains for 99 cents. That's quite good. You can also put coupon codes on this if you want, and you can add a .info for another 99 cents. So in total, obviously you can have that as well. You're gonna get 3 domains for under €2 or $2, depending on where you are. And I think there's regional pricing as well. Very simple. One thing I'll tell you though is one.com doesn't really like when you order a ton of these domains, and if you try to abuse it, they don't like it. Max you can order, I think, is like 10, 15, somewhere in between. Once I had an order go through with 20 domains, but generally it takes a lot more to get these domains than if you go to Porkbun or any of the providers, but it is going to save you a ton of money, and that money is that much better spent on, I mean, if you can spare this, just buy age domains or just buy more email accounts. I think that's the best way to spend these. Or I mean, if you want to, you could get a bunch from Porkbun or whatever, but it's probably going to cost you like 10 times as much. Okay, 5. This is the email server. So we talked about domain age. That's one part of the puzzle, which we covered. And now we're going to cover email health. So you cannot fix a cooked server, period. So Google, Outlook have industrial grade, battle tested infrastructure, bulletproof reputation. So high trust across ESPs, and here's the kicker: you can get real Google and Outlook inboxes for dirt cheap, one-to-one, the same exact accounts, very much so authentic, even US and EU IPs if you know where to look. SMTP, well, not so much. By the way, if you want to know where to get these, just just keep on watching. I'll show you in basically 2 minutes. Here's the piece about SMTP. Just don't do it. It's basically a never-ending cycle. You warm it up for a few weeks, you get flagged for backsending. You know, say if it's a shared SMTP server, you're basically like playing Russian roulette. One idiot nukes the whole reputation and you're out. There may be a handful of SMTP providers that aren't hot garbage, and even them, they're not going to ever out deliver Google or Microsoft with their SMTP at scale. But the biggest scam is in the SMTP guys, and I probably will get a lot of hate for this, but it's the G Suite and Outlook inbox resellers. Most of them don't even know how to set up the accounts properly. They just go to the same Indian or Eastern European reseller, enterprise tenant provider, depending on, you know, if it's Outlook or Google, bulk order these inboxes and pass them along to you with no custom config, no IP rotation, and no regional filtering. You ask for EU, US inboxes and they give you whatever is easiest to grab. Most times it's not even one of these, unfortunately. Half of the time, they don't even know how to check the IP reputation or the ESP distribution on your list. And that's quite unfortunate because most of the times they're just solely reliant on one tenant provider or just one Outlook legacy provider. The problem is if that reputation gets burned with their access, like all the clients, if there are hundreds of clients, all of those inboxes are going to go to absolute zero. And if you're among them, like if you're going to get inboxes from, you know, a reseller for like $2-3 from Google, if you're buying Microsoft inboxes for $1 to $2 a pop, you're probably pulled in with hundreds of other people who are on the same tenant distribution list. And, you know, if one guy nukes again, the whole infrastructure is gone. So you don't want to be among these. But I mean, best I'd advise you to is find the source yourself and just get it on your own, because you can save a ton of money. They basically just slap a logo on the whole thing, run a few onboarding calls and just flip it for a nice 5 to 8x profit, because, you know, they think they found the source and hired 2 VAs to set it up for you. There's no unique IPs. There's no regional routing, no control. And you're sitting there thinking like you've got some premium inbox pipeline. Outlook resellers, I think, are even worse contenders because they do the same thing. They interview a few enterprise tenant providers, get access and resell it at 20x the cost. To be fair, it's quite a lot harder of a process to do because you have to get verified as a Microsoft partner. But most rely on one single provider, like I said. But just think about it, like what happens if, again, like they have hundreds of clients and getting inboxes from them, one provider sending 1 million emails a day. Yeah, well, Outlook basically just tells the tenant provider that, hey, something is off and they need to cut ties with them. And all of those 100 clients, probably you among them if you're using them, your inbox is going to be cooked, and then you need to wait another week or two to get everything set up, or even more. The same issue is going to arise over and over again. So meanwhile, for most of you are running basically the exact same IP pools, just wondering why your reply rates crash at the same time as your buddies. This is probably why. Again, like if you're using the same reseller, they're using the same providers. Okay, we pretty much gone into it in detail inside the Citadel and just exposed the whole thing. And if you want to skip the middleman, nothing is gatekept, nobody's left behind. We basically strive to get, there's no point of like gatekeeping information like these guys are doing. So if you want to know how to do it, it's all inside the Citadel. Or if you just want to have a call with me, I can explain as well. It's the first link in the description. But, you know, you could just get it on your own, just save like 20x the cost or 5 to 8x if you're getting Google. And just basically, again, skip the middleman. Number one, it's going to be cheaper. Number two, it's going to be safer because you have full control over everything. Sure, it's going to take you more time, but the cost saving is just that much worth it. Like, think about it like this. You're still getting a decent deal, but if you can get 20x more inboxes from the same money you're paying, just imagine what that would do for your reply rate and pipeline. Now here's where things get interesting, and this is what I wanted to get back with SMTP. Have you ever noticed how emails from Loom, Stripe, Calendly, like WeTransfer, and you know, all these big companies, they always land in your inbox, even if your cold campaigns are getting into spam? Well, that's because they're using a transactional email provider, sender provider like AWS SaaS, so basically Amazon Web Services, and SES just means simple email service. And what that means is transactional email. So something like, you know, just think about it like this, like these systems are built to deliver mission critical messages like receipts, calendar, booking confirmation, payout confirmation, invites. So ESPs trust them because they have to. If they don't go out, you're going to be pissed at Google, you're going to be pissed at them because you're not going to see your receipt, you're not going to see your emails coming in. and tens of millions of these emails, maybe hundreds of millions of these emails are still inboxing, no domain forwarding, no warm up every single day. And this is 100% of the time. At the moment, no public cold email SMTP provider is doing this right now. No one's routing cold email, especially SMTP through SES, unless you're inside the Citadel. If you want to get something like this, so private SMTP routing through Amazon SES, we and our partners have developed something which does exactly this. And at the moment, there is no other competitor that does this in SMTP, because traditionally this is not what SMTP was used for. So with us, you basically get a private SMT3 routing through Amazon AWS. So you're basically having transactional email system type deliverability for, none of the cost that is associated with just buying a ton of good, solid, like G Suite Outlook accounts. So it's even cheaper than going to, like, for example, like straight to the source for Outlook or Google. It's absolutely crazy. It's something that still boggles my mind, and we cannot keep up with the volume. We're doing so much in terms of scale. And I recommend, like, if you're doing something like this, like, always diversify. Like, if this goes to tank, because it could, like, something could happen, always stand on multiple legs, because it's good to have Outlook, good to have Google, and good to have something like this. If you're not doing AWS SaaS, then I don't recommend to do SMTP. More of the story: pay for real inboxes, Google Workspace or Outlook, or well, try to figure this out. Don't DIY infrastructure unless you know what you're doing. Precisely with this, we've been messing with this for absolute months. Treat your inbox selection like you treat your CRM or payment stack foundational, so it's not flexible. Avoid shared SMTPs like the plague. Know what IP you're on, what platform you're using, and know when to re-roll if your reputation is toast. Okay, so this is all about email health, server health, domain health. I'm going to talk about a little bit about how you can create campaigns. It's probably going to be the longest section of this video. By the way, if you made it this far, I highly appreciate you watching, and I hope you got some value out of this so far. And we're not even halfway there, so I'm super excited to share all of this with you today. So let's go. So campaigns. So infrastructure gets you in the inbox, so everything we talked about, so domain health and email health, that's all the infrastructure. Now we need to talk about campaigns, which actually gets you the replies, right? But here's what most cold emailers miss. Good campaigns aren't about clever hooks or ChatGPT style copy. They're about actual alignment and making sure there's a market message fit. So you can use Claude and custom train GPT. That's absolutely fine. We do it ourselves as well. The best for the campaigns, just always align, and keep this in mind with these 4 layers. So the right person, or the right timing, the right problem, and the right proof. Miss anyone and your reply rate just absolutely tanks. So let's break it down one by one. Step 1, list quality over everything. So this just talks about the right person, so messaging the right person. Your list controls everything downstream. You cannot write good copy on a bad list. And I'll just say this again: you cannot write a good copy on a bad list. The reason is because if you're messaging someone whose offer is irrelevant to, they're not going to care. If you're selling pizza ovens to a SaaS company, it's not going to help them in any way. So it's just irrelevant. Like, sure, they might reply to you like, are you serious? Something like this. But the point is, your offer is not going to sell. So most people just do this. They go into Apollo, filter by job title, top performers, build hyper targeted list by doing these simple things. You can scrape niche databases like PageBook, Crunchbase, LinkedIn. You can stack data from tools like Clay, Ocean, which you can use a waterfall enrichment from. So Clay is very good for that. You can mine Reddit, Crunchbase, NewsFeed, SEC filings. You can track job listings. Most importantly, scrape local directories. So we have a video on this exact topic. So if you're not familiar with scraping local directories, we have a lead scraping masterclass. So again, it's on the channel. Again, it's absolutely free. So you can click somewhere here above me on an info card. It should pop up. That's it if you need help with scraping. But it's basically like this. Like, for example, if you're looking for AgTech directories, AgTech companies, just an example, I looked this up. I literally just type in like AgTech directories into Google. And I think this was like as you can see, the first one that came up, right? So this is the same one. There's 820 companies, and you can just come here, easy scraper, and what we talked about in the masterclass, and just start scraping. We're getting all the companies here. each specific page, because if we click here, we can get the domain, which then you can enrich. Sure, not every company has the domain, but that's absolutely fine. We have a ton and ton more databases just like this. But you know, it's good for demonstration purposes. There's a bonus. So here's a fire hose of lead sources. So stop acting like you need Apollo for everything. By the way, they use primarily LinkedIn's data, if you're not familiar. But before we get into that, bonus 2. Let me just give you 1 billion leads. Absolutely, again, for free. You can just click here, and this is just a few of the data sources that we scraped. This is almost 1 billion leads in total. If you add everything up, we have anywhere from Seamless to People, Data Labs, Ninja Leads, LeadRock, high quality B2B, that's just random B2B, Get Lunkup, software companies, LinkedIn, Apollo, Clutch, and just a whole bunch more data you can click and come into. Everything is zipped up nicely, so you can just download this straight into your PC and you can browse around. Like, very simple. If you're just interested in, say, Seamless, I would say this is the highest quality one out of all of them. So for example, this is how it looks with Seamless. You have a ton of leads here on specific industries. I think we got like over 600 different files. They're very high quality. As you can see, like all of them have emails. You can see the email validation standpoint. You can see multiple emails. You can see multiple phone numbers as well. So there is just a ton of data you can use. So you don't really need to spend money to get started. Or if you're advanced, you can just, you know, use this if you'd like. Another thing, if you need more leads and you are wondering like which of these I'm showing you here below are good, here's us testing basically all those data sources. You can come to personal, you can come to local business, you can come to tech. Personal is just basically getting personal addresses for, you know, business. You can judge for yourself like how much each contact costs. You can see it here. You can see the test sample that we did, my notes here, as well as everything else in between. So that's bonus 3. Enough of the bonuses. Let's go into the specifics. So you can use Apollo, Yatlanka, Clay, G2, Software Suggest, Capterra, Trust Radius. And again, some of these are for different purposes. Like Clay is good for waterfall enrichment. Software Suggest is for software companies. Crunchbase is pretty much for them as well. Capterra is for reviews, but you can scrape a ton of companies from there. Yatlanka is pretty much exclusively a SaaS database. So, you know, you need to research this on your own. But again, like an infinite amount of local directories are within your ICP. So if you're struggling with that, just again, like watch the video on lead scraping. Here's just a few for ecom, but I'm not going to go too in depth into this because the document just dives better into it. Okay, events and triggers. So you can look for specific events and triggers to even segment further down your list. So think about like SEC filing, new companies when they get registered, Google alerts, Crunchbase Pro filters like acquisition, funding, launches. By the way, you can sign up for Crunchbase Pro for a 1-month free trial, and then you can scrape 1K companies per page for free if you're using the scraping strategy shown in that video. So that's quite cool if you want to save some bucks. Okay, but back to this LinkedIn job post, you can look for actively hiring SDRs, Twitter X scraping post, Reddit subs, X-ray Google search with modifier. So once you have the leads and you want to enrich them, here's my plug. Tony, here's his WhatsApp number. You can just message him. He can get you leads for $6 per 10,000. Just say Sabo sent you and just might give you a better deal. So that's it. I mean, you can use them if you want to. It's basically like 15 times cheaper than just going to Apollo, or just 5 times cheaper than any of the, the lead scrapers I know. I mean, you can use him. He's very reliable. We ordered millions of leads from him. So also here's a resource I'm sharing with you. So you can use this to actually like level up your game. We talk more about this in the actual how to book hundreds of sales calls document and video, but this still should help you find up-market verticals, horizontal adjacent markets, as well as how you can find a message market fit inside your email campaigns. So these are just some cheat sheets you can use for you to track basically your ICP. Okay, next, once you have that, just use segmentation. Segmentation just basically relevance multiplier. So segmenting your list, just all you need to do is just make it feel like it was written personally for them at scale. That's, I mean, sounds simple enough, right? But it is definitely not as simple as just by doing that. You can slice by industry, sub niches. You can do like fintech SaaS or martech SaaS, team size, or stage. So bootstrapped or PE, tech stack like HubSpot, recent moves, new roles, like of course, like each role has different metrics they care about. Funding stage, behavioral triggers. Then you might reverse engineer their world, what outcomes they care about, what language they use, what problems they obsess over, what tools competitors are using. Use this information. So in the first line, you could use like, so you just onboarded tool, proof points, help competitor increase retention by 90%, call to action, worth showing how we did this for peer. Pro tip, build segments within segments. And okay, this might sound a little crazy, but hey, I mean, it gets crazy good results. So I mean, we can do whatever you want with this whole information. I'm just simply here to show you like what we're doing right now, what works really well in the current land space, and then you can decide if you want to implement this or not. It's ultimately up to you. Okay, so then you can scale this up horizontally. So for example, fintech operator leads at Series A companies who just raised and are hiring SDRs. Start campaign with just 1 to 2 of these deep segments, just like I mentioned. Okay, once you have this, validate like a pro. So just clean your list basically. If you're sending junk data, your whole campaign's dead on arrival. Doesn't matter how good your copy is, doesn't matter how good your infrastructure is. This is a simple change, but if you mess it up, it could burn your infrastructure and your leads. So most people just skip validation and just rely on a single tool. So it's either or. Top senders is usually stack a few of these. So for example, tools we use. Omni Verifier, it's a new tool, it's cheap, it's reliable. You can use Never Bounce or Bouncer for catch-all cleaning. You can use Clay to handle catch-all ping response logic. You can use Hunter or Zero Bounce, again, just for extra validation. Or best yet, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but you can build your own. I mean, if you break down all this tech, you can build your own quite easily for a few $100. For a size of a decent list, you can build your own. Catch-all just means opportunity. Most people ignore them, but with good logic, you can convert like 10 to 30% more leads safely. It depends on the list, but like easily you can get like 10% more leads. For this, I only recommend to do that once you have proved that it is worth it, because catch-all can be quite expensive if you don't have your own tool. You can use Clay's verification logic, test in small batches, and watch for bounce rates. But again, it's really only worth it if you have already sent to the clean emails, and if you want to get more out of that list, because if that list is just junk, don't waste money on cleaning the catch-alls. So here's the process. Run a new domain through full batch test before scaling, maintain bounce rate below 5%, revalidate list every 30-45 days because emails go stale fast. Or I mean, if you're just reusing them every 90 days, like I show you, just do that every 3 months and you should be fine. Okay, skip this step and you'll basically kill your domain health before the email ever hits the inbox. Validate leads, better deliverability just equals more replies and equals more revenue. So treat data like a product and not an afterthought. So it's very, very important. It's something that is super duper easy to miss, super duper easy to just overlook and just do the bare minimum of. But if this something could burn your whole infrastructure and campaign, and just don't skimp on it. Okay, bonus, I mentioned to you this, but you can build your own tool for $500, give or take. But I mean, under 1K you can definitely do it if you hire a developer as well to do the whole thing for you. So which is the price of a decently sized list, and even you can build in the functionality of cleaning catch-alls, which is quite crazy. Like if you think about it, like cleaning like say 10K catch-alls, that costs like $300, and you can build your own tool for like $500 to $1,000 if you're hiring a developer. If you want to know how to do it, again, we show this to you in the Citadel. So if you want to know how to do it, we show this to you in the Citadel as well. So okay, let's go. But basically, like a lot of things I mentioned in this document, it's not rocket science. Like total infrastructure to maintain this, you're like 500,000 a day cleaned is like $30-40, and realistically that's like $10 for one VPS, and the rest are backup. So what realistically these tools are doing, I'll show you, which a lot of people don't. And I think it's important to understand because, again, if you break down things into their first principle, it's a lot simpler than a lot of these tools make it out to be. Like, oh, we're #1 best lead cleaner. But no, you're not. You're just doing the same thing everybody else is doing, and all of them are essentially the same. Like, sure, they might use a different data source or library to do it, but they all do the same thing. And let me explain why. So #1, they just check for syntax. So Is the email format even valid? Like, think about like this. So someone@domain.com. If it's not like this, it's going to fail. Okay. DNS. So does the domain even exist? Can it receive emails? DNS lookup, many records. So that's what it does. I mean, all of these are like basically outsourced libraries that anyone, if you have like half decent coding skills, you can employ with some AI help. SMTP check. Does the mailbox exist on the mail server? That's what it does. Again, same thing. SMTP handshake. Catch-all domain. Does the server accept any email junk domains? Try fake inbox like xyz123@domain.com. Temporary disposables, I would say like the most important one. Is it a known burner email like Millionaire, etc.? It just looks up a whole bunch of disposable domains and just blocks those. Unfortunately, there's no real like other tech you can do. Like some of the emails are going to be disposable. Actually, like a big percentage of them, even with like the best tools. I mean, if you think about it, like you can sign up with disposable emails to basically any platform. Like I'm sure you have yours. We have ours, which is, I mean, if you want to know, it's mail.tm. It's quite a decent tool, and a lot of those domains are not blocked because they're always rotating it. And the problem with that is if you sign up to a lot of things with that, there's really no way to like block those, right? Because they're legitimate domains. They're just being used for temporary email addresses. So I would say like that's the biggest thing to combat here. If you have a decent way to combat this, I think companies will pay millions for you. Like, but you can sign up to basically any platform with a temporary one. And I'm pretty sure like they don't want you to use a temporary number. Okay. Role-based address track, like, you know, is it info dot? Is it support at? You know, stuff like this. You can use regex substring matching. So just, you know, check for these. And finally, blacklist. Again, all of these are done through libraries. Very simple. Okay, so once you have that, clean the list. Now you need a copy. Spam filters, they don't speak English. What they do is they vectorize your message and break it down into data patterns to predict if it's spam or if it's actually legit. So what actually triggers spam? Overused words like free, guarantee, buy now. So anything from a repetitive structure like 5-line pitch blocks, you know, so something like this that I have in this document. Common cold email phrases, just following up, or, you know, anything that is associated with spam. Like if your infrastructure gets burned and you put your main domain into it, that domain might be associated with spam in the future. So it's always best to, like, for example, when we're sending cold emails, like we don't just put like scalingroom.com, number one, because it's going to count as a link. We do something like scalingroom.com like this, right? And then people can look it up. Or you could do sr.com or whatever like subdomains you have. So even like the domain, we try to spin tags or the role even. So if you think about like this, like subo at scaling room, so not always like this. You could do scaling room, you know, a whole bunch of variations. Just don't blacklist your own domain or your own bird, because it could happen. Like there's no way for you to know. It's always best to use spin tags on these as well. Okay, so next is lack of variability. Just same phrasing across tens of thousands of emails. Again, this is just going to go back to spin tags. So your job is to make it look and feel like a one-off human-made email. And even then it could go to spam, but you know, that's your best chance. How to beat the filter? No more than 1 to 2 spammy words, and that's absolute max. Vary sentence structure across templates. Avoid bullets, formatting, and basically bold text. Keep it casual, plain style. Use something like Mailmedia's free spam checker. You can check like what words are considered spam. Of course, like this is a bad, well, actually this is a good example. Like some of the words you have no way to subsidize for if you're on giving a specific offer to a specific segment of the market. Like for example, like financial consultant, cannot really change this up. Or privately owned funds, right? Like you cannot really change these up. So some of the words are okay. I generally just try to keep it under like at least like 3 max and just remove the really spammy ones. There's really no signs for this because we don't exactly know what the ESPs are checking for. This is sort of an educated guess. Okay, so forget fancy, be direct, be specific and useful. So anatomy for a good cold email copy is just have an intro, a hook, a call to action, and a nice guarantee. Example could be, saw company just expanded into Latin America, helped X company scale to 4 reps in 30 days there. We want the playbook. Notice company started running ads again. We help brands drop CAC by 18 to 22% using non-obvious list building, worth a quick chat. And obviously these are just to spike curiosity. These are quite decent offers. We don't know like if they're gonna work or not in the market unless you test it. But so I'm gonna give you also an offer swipe file which explains everything in more detail. If you're not familiar with this video, we already did this like a couple months ago. Basically, we go into how you can create your own offer and each specific segment. So as you can see, intro, hook, call to action, guarantee. We dive a lot deeper into each specific segment. And if you just want the swipe files, it's going to be at the very bottom of the document itself. And you can just take a whole bunch of these frameworks and just implement it into your own system. Okay, next is once you have a copy, then you need to use a call to action that actually get replied. You're not selling, you're starting the conversation. So use something like, want me to send case study, resource, video, document. That works always well. Should I send over teardown, over seeing if this fits for company? And just one ask, okay, just one question. Don't do more. That's it. Like if you have multiple questions in the copy, like 3 questions, just realistic, like if you get an email with 3 questions, which one are you going to reply to? Probably neither of them, right? So don't do it. Just have like a simple email, simple copy, and you're probably doing 90% better than most cold emails are. Okay. Step 6, real proof or get ignored. So social proof isn't optional anymore. It's really the only reason people will leave you. Use this format. So company name, outcome, speed, or time frame. So a bad example would be we help companies grow. A good one is helped X company add specific result or outcome, 78,000 in MMR from cold emails, speed and time frame 19 days. Step 7, A/B test like an operator. No need for fancy tools. Just use your existing sequence. Just don't test like a rookie. You don't need anything fancy here. Just test one variable at a time, or the thing I mentioned. Don't do multiple ones, like call to action, first line, or offer framing. This is super important, again, like because if you change multiple things, you don't know which change was good, which change was bad. Use minimal 500 to 1,000 emails when you're testing. Use a minimum of 500 to 1,000 sends minimum per variant. Track reply rate, positive reply rate, and finally the book pause. That's really what matters. Run tests on real segments and not random scrape lists. Learn, iterate, and finally just scale. Final tip, if the reply rate is below 1.5%, pause everything, recheck your targeting, rewrite your copy, and reset the whole infrastructure. Just basically don't scale something that is garbage. Run at least 3 variants which you compare to your base campaign with only one variable change. The example could be the call to action or could be the hook. So things you need to track are replies, but don't track open rates, positive versus total replies, booking rates. Run at least 500 to 1,000 sends, like I said, and the results you're basically going to go from 1 to 2% to 6 to 10% without sending more, just by sending it better. If you need a tracker, again, you can just use the one we have. If you need a tracker, you can just, again, use the one we have, which we've given out many times. But this is the outbound tracker that we use. Simply, you can track the whole thing, any type of outbound that you're doing, like specifically, we are talking about email. So if you go into email, you can track, like example, like put some dummy data in March, like what exactly is going on. And then you can track everything very nicely, or just build your own. Okay, so let's talk a little bit briefly about follow-ups. You need to stop bumping. Instead, just add new proof, add a new angle, clarify how you can help. Like 30-40% of replies come from actual follow-ups, so don't phone it in. Another small rant on sequencers and what's going on in the current space. Not to not drop names or anything, but if somebody is mentioning you a private sequencer, which gives you better deliverability, better control, exclusivity. Truth is, email sequencers, they do not directly impact deliverability. It's just basically a scheduling tool, like if you really think about it. So what it does is basically it asks you like what to send from what inbox, and that's it. If anyone tells you otherwise, just double check whether or not they're selling you an overpriced sequencer. Okay, they're spinning up basically like a $40 a month ESP from Hetzner or any like IPS, or any of the virtual service provider or any VPS, slapping on an open source sequencer within a few ticks, with a decent warm-up pusher. But I mean, if they're charging you like $200, that's fine. But if they're charging you like $500 for a sequencer, I would say that's quite frankly a robbery, especially when you sort of doing the volume that we are doing, like especially when you're scaling it up. Like let's say you're doing like 5 million emails a month personally, just like us. Like that's 5K for a sequencer. It's not the infrastructure, that's not lead, it's not deliverability. That's just the sending interface. Price 5K, that's insanity, right? So you can build your own. We built ours. So if you're like me, you probably hate seeing the monthly subscriptions just piling up. We partnered up with some software developers and an AI engineer who merged a sequencer and infrastructure into one unified system, which basically allows us to have an AI agent which checks deliverability as well, which none of the other tools have, which is quite crazy. Because, you know, if you combine the infrastructure from the same place, because you know where we're getting it from, and the sequencer, the AI agent basically knows everything, right? We train it on the specifics of the deliverability that we know is guaranteed. So if you have any questions, you could just message the bot itself. We're rolling it out to a few people now inside the Citadel, starting at 97 a month. It was basically like unlimited everything into like unlimited sends, unlimited leads, unlimited accounts. The warm up at the moment, we are using Smart Leads Premium, Instant Leads, and People AI's pools because they're quite good, and it is just way too expensive to develop. We might add this functionality later on, but it's just way too unpredictable. And these are more than enough, right? Like these are really, really good warm-up pools. And you know, for a combine of like $150 a month or even like 130 using instantly, you can send like unlimited everything, which is quite cool. Why? Well, because we basically just got tired of being ripped off by people who pretend they built something revolutionary, but it's just basically like recycled open source code on a VPS. These are really not tools worth purchasing for, and this is really something I think you should only consider if you're doing basically anything above 150k volume. Because right, like if you go to instantly, right, like interesting cap is they always happen at, let's see, 100,000. Here's like 500,000, but even then they're charging you like 360 bucks, and that's still capped at 500k. It's not much. If you check Smartly, it's not bad. You can send up to 60 million email credits per month, which is probably something that you're not going to reach. So basically you can count this as unlimited. So you can quite literally use this. This is not a bad option. Or you can use Plus Vibe, which again, like 150k limit. So that's not bad. A decent alternative is Smart Lead at the moment, but there are some problems with this. The good thing is they give you the advanced warm-up pool, but there's just so many secrets that they don't give you and don't tell you about, and their support is not the best. But anyway, if you want something that is truly unlimited, we just roll it out to a few people. The reason is because we use it ourselves, and you know, we have extra capabilities. So if you want to test it out, just shoot me a message. You know, we can get you on. Next, again, follow up or die. I briefly mentioned something about follow-ups, but most campaigns die because people don't follow up. Ideally, you need to send 3 to 5. Space them out between 2 to 4 business day, and each follow-up must add something specific, not noise. So follow-up should be like this. They add proof. Following up on my last, help peer company close 48,000 in MMR with this simple strategy. New angle. Another reason this works, drops CAC by 20% by replacing X. Quick reminder, build this for company in mind. Still want me to send it? Cliffhanger, have a teardown. We did for competitor. Want to peek? Direct ask. Should I close this loop, or does it sound useful? You can use some of these. These work really well. We use a 7-step email sequence. Just use anywhere between 5 to 7, and that's my recommendation. Keep it short, no links. Use different structure and tone from the original, and send from the same thread. It's just going to boost deliverability. Just make sure you keep this in mind. If you skip this step, you're throwing away like almost half your revenue potential. So stop bumping, just instead do this. Okay, ESP-specific playbook. We're getting near the end here, and I very much appreciate you sticking by. I can already see this is going to be a long video. We're going to talk about Outlook versus Google, some specific strategies that I recommend to run at the current stage. Let's talk about Outlook. So Outlook has probably the strictest AI spam filters on the market right now. Even Microsoft's own emails sometimes land in spam, and that's quite funny. Outlook inboxes are either good from the get-go, or they need their IPs to be re-rolled. And here's how not to get them burned. So basically just follow this guide. Warm-up settings should be total warm-ups 5 a day, daily ramp-up do 2, 30% reply rate, randomization 2 to 5, and let inboxes warm for at least 3 days, ideally 10 to 14. Just again goes back to the thing like they're either good from the get-go, or they're not really, and you need to re-roll the IP. I just recommend like waiting at least like 3 days just to warm up. We can start it out of the gate. That's not going to be a big problem. And if any of these like seem unfamiliar, just go to your sequencer and you should see these options. So next is sending limits. Just do 2 to 5 cold emails max per inbox, minimum 61 gap in between. The reason I recommend you this is because if you're using a tenant provider or reseller, they mostly give you 100 inboxes, and what you never want to cross is 2,000 emails combined. So that's warm up and cold from one tenant, because that's sort of where the problems lie. If you want to stay safe, I recommend stay under 1K for the whole tenant. So it's basically like 10 emails per tenant. So that's how the math breakdown is: 5 cold, 5 warm up. But if you want to stay even safer, do even less. Okay, so campaign configuration you must do: no tracking, no links, use spin tags, every 2 to 3 words randomized. You can use these tools or just use a GPT powered generator as well. Never send to bad or risky inboxes. So some copy tips for Outlook. So what I recommend here is just one liner, 50 words max, as casual as possible. And yeah, by the way, 50 words does not include spin tag. So, you know, if you're wondering, it doesn't. Don't do any $signs, finance language. Again, this is just a spam thing. Avoid common spam phrasing like free trial just checking in. Just you can use the mail meteor tool I showed you before. Finally, just list management. Split it up into ESPs by using email guards post lookup, or you can do it manually after cleaning your list. Run separate campaigns for Outlook and Google. That's just generally helpful. Or you can use both inboxes in the same campaign, and one just sends to Outlook, one just sends to Google. That's what's called a ESP provider match. You can just basically toggle it on in any type of sequence, and you're going to be absolutely golden. You're not going to have any problems with that. Okay, so Outlook red flags to keep in mind: smart lead specific. Okay, so if flaggable in smart lead, copy was too spammy, emails didn't send out properly. So Outlook checks messages before delivery. If it smells like a spam, they are going to stop it right at the gate. It is going to not even go out. If IP is blacklisted, just request a reroll from Microsoft support and they should change it for you. You can do this every 15 days. Or if you're using a reseller, just tell them, hey, I need to reroll my IP. Or if you want to find out like how the resellers are getting the inboxes, again, I mentioned you can just get this in the Citadel. It's very, very simple. You can do it on your own as well. How to adapt: completely rewrite flag campaigns. Just basically just start from scratch. Spam density, just anything that sounds spammy or just phrase like it, just remove. Monitor bounce rate, healthy demarc every single week. Just make sure everything's okay there. Some Google specific notes. Google more, it cares about the domain reputation than the server IP. Age domains plus proper warm up, they have a solid inbox placement, but you do need to warm it up for 10 to 14 days. That's it. Google is quite a lot more simpler than I think than Outlook at the current moment. Last year it wasn't so. It was Google that was struggling. That's why I recommend like diversify: 40% Outlook, 40% Google, and 20% SMTP if it's needed, or if you can figure out a way to use Amazon's AWS, because I don't think there's any SMTP providers at the moment worth using unless you can figure it out. Or again, if you want it, it's linked here above in the Citadel. You can just use ours. Okay, so what you need to avoid is domain forwarding, and I know is again controversial, but it's bad for reputation. Instead, just duplicate your website onto those domains as well. You can really easily do it if you're using something like Netlify to host your domain. For example, we are hosting ours on Netlify. It's free. You can easily upload your code onto it. Or if you say, hey, Sabo, I'm using something like Framer or Webflow, that's absolutely cool as well. You can just download the code and just simply sign up for a Netlify account, use your code and upload it to GitHub, or you don't even need to do it, or just ask like a developer from Fiverr and they're going to do it for you for like $30. And you can basically upload like 10, 15, 20, even 30 domain or websites onto Netlify on a free account, and you can just host those, because there's not going to be much traffic routed onto it. You can possibly even do more like 50. What we do is just basically just do this, is just take the website's code, push it onto Netlify and just post it there. And that's it. No domain forwarding. Link spamming, don't do it. High volume spikes, so just make sure like space this out. Best practices you should be doing is cold and warm emails should be spaced and varied. If you're sending 4 cold, send 4 to 6 warm, spaced out. Don't blast with predictable patterns. Your best defense against ESP filters is a hyper-relevant list, human-sounding copy, and a very smooth infrastructure with no cracks in it. So examples for good copy: built a tool for company that boosted demo rates by 12%. Want to see it? Still looking to fund new deals this quarter. got a fast track approach. Best subject lines. This is a hotly debated topic as well, but I would just say it's quite simple, and I'll simplify it for you as well. It's not really complex. So you don't need to optimize for this because there's no way you can track the conversion rate for subject lines, but just don't use quick question first name. It's just way too overused. Okay. So what works? Make sure you keep these in mind when creating your subject lines, and you're going to be absolutely fine. So make sure it feels personal, not promotional. Sounds like something you'd actually email to a friend. Not title case or gimmicks. Usually at the moment this works quite well because everybody's used to title case. Best performers, just a few examples that work really well for us. More MQLs, yes or no, less churn, need this, idea, first name, ops hire still open. Saw this. Just means, you know, replying to competitor. It's just almost like you forwarded this email. Avoid clickbait, relates for you know, something that seems spammy. Emojis, but just don't use these in general. Anything that screams newsletter. Use subject lines like a whisper, not a shout. It's a nudge to get, you know, them open up the email. And you can use another string like more MQL. Like think about this. This is a subject line. And there's always, if you could combine like a first line with correlation to your subject line, you can basically get people enticed. Like let's go up and see. So build a tool for company, boosted demo rate by 12%. Want to see? And you could say something like more demos, right? Like more demos. This is what they see in the subject line, more demos. And the first line could be build a tool for company that boosted demo rates by 12%. Want to see it? Could be obviously more than this, but you know, that's the subject line first line. They obviously know exactly like what it is, and they can just click it if they're interested. And most times if they click it, you can obviously put like more information there. And that's the best way I would say to do it at the current moment. Okay, so for troubleshooting, under 1.5% reply rate, you have a leak somewhere, and that's usually where I would just stop everything and just go back to the drawing board. By them, I mean I just check these two things. So is your list okay? Are you targeting the right role? Are they in the market or what you're selling, or is it just the general segment? Did you verify the emails, including catch-alls? Is it a fresh list or recycled crap? Or step 2, does your message sound like a person wrote it or a pitch tag? Any proof? Case study results? Did you avoid spammy phrasing? Does your call to action ask for a go in this order? List? Bad targeting equals bad replies. Copy? No proof, too generic. Infra? Domain server could be cooked. Reply rate is the most fixable KPI in your funnel. So small lifts gonna give you big upsides. So that's why the long document and video. So we're towards the end here. So just a quick recap. If you want 6 to 10% reply rates, just again like a quick sum up. Just nail the infrastructure, healthy domains, solid inboxes, right? That's the infrastructure. There's nothing else to it. So if anyone just tells you otherwise, they don't know what they're talking about. So just go back again to point 3 here. Again, infrastructure, domain, email. And I hope it makes sense. That's pretty much it for the infrastructure wise. Well, obviously it's not as simple as that. You need infrastructure, good copy, good offer, and a whole bunch more things. List as well. So build list like a psycho, write like a person, not a pitch deck. You can use AI to help you with that. We haven't gone super in depth into it. Follow up like you care, track your reply rates and not your opens. And that's it. If you're tired of fighting inbox resellers and burning cash on broken tools, I can pretty much show you how we run this at scale. You could just come to me and book a call and we can have a chat about it, and I can introduce you like what we do specifically in scaling room to book hundreds and hundreds of calls every single month, which is basically what this other video is about. So if you're interested in how to book 300 plus calls every single month with cold email, just continue watching on this mini series. All right, and that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you just want to take 2 seconds of your time, I just want to thank me for taking my time to create this document and just walk you through this. A like and subscribe is highly appreciated. But, you know, with that in mind, I'll see you in the next one, and take care.